Hi, everybody. Did you guys know I was coming here, or?
Hopefully.
You sure? You have the right room?
All right, so we welcome everybody to the Danny Lloyd panel. Thank you guys all so much for coming. I'm Mary. I'm just a moderator for today. First of all, I know you guys already gave a big round of applause. Let's give them another round of applause for coming out. All right, so basically I'm going to start off with a couple introductory questions, and then we're going to open the floor up to some Q&A. If you guys have I'm sure everybody has a ton of questions, and we'll just go through that as long as we have extra time at the end. So to start off with, I have a couple questions about The Shining.
Sure.
Probably your most popular film role out of the two that you have.
Yes.
I would hazard a bet to say it's the most popular one. So the #1 trivia piece on IMDb about The Shining is about how you didn't actually know it was a horror film until basically until you were a lot older. What kind of precautions did they take on the set to kind of hide those facts from you?
Well, it's more of a case where I don't, because I was 5 years old, so I don't recall a time where my parents sat me down and said, "Okay, this is a horror movie." So it wasn't like that. So they, at some point in there, they may have said something like that, but when you're a kid, it's a scary movie. If they would have said horror, I don't even know if I would have known what that was. But the truth is, it was a big event in not just my life, but my whole family's life, because we were in Kentucky in the U.S., and we went to England, and it ended up being a year in England filming the movie, and it was so long my older brother had to go back to school without us, So anyway, along the lines, along the time of the filming, I figured it out that it was a scary movie, and the clues were you can't be here tomorrow because there's something happening that you can't see, or Scatman is getting the axe tomorrow. I remember my mom saying that, Scatman's getting the axe tomorrow and you can't be here. Just stuff like that. So I figured it out. But no, I don't. The truth is, I don't recall, ever knowing for sure what everything was happening from the beginning.
Perfect. Yeah. And kind of building off onto that, the first time that you watched the movie all the way through, did you ever see one of those scenes and you're like, oh, that's what they needed that reaction shot for? It's supposed to be scary and not funny. Were there any of those aha movements watching it?
Yeah, a little bit, because like you said, along the same lines, they had kind of trained me, for lack of a better word, to just give that scared look, And so later on, when I see the film, oh, I'm supposed to be seeing the twins all chopped up, but I wasn't at the time. I was just given that scared look.
Yeah.
So, which I appreciate. I didn't want to necessarily see that when I was 5. So.
Assume not to.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, does anybody have any questions? Let's get started. Yes.
Okay. It's been notorious that Stanley Kubrick was really hard to work for. I think I even mentioned it to you when I met you earlier.
You're right.
There's a scene where you're eating ice cream, and he's a perfectionist, so I heard you had to film it 70-something times. Did you have to actually eat ice cream over and over and over again? Did you remember that kind of stuff? Or you were kind of forced to do scenes a crazy amount of times because he's a perfectionist?
Yes.
Do you hate ice cream now?
No, I love ice cream. One of the prop guys, the next day, said, "You now hold the record for how many gallons of ice cream we went through, yesterday." So the actual number of takes we had for that, I don't know. But you realize that I may have only taken a bite, and then a brand new bowl comes in. That's continuity. That's the perfectionist. And I don't remember why, but we just had to keep doing it over and over again. Not every scene was like that. I may have been telling you, I don't remember. The door that I wrote Red Room on, they didn't have 100 of those. So I practiced and practiced and practiced writing Red Room, and you know, they had a few of them. I know we did it a few times, but you know, so not every one of them was 50 or 60 takes, but yeah, that it did happen.
Any other questions? Yeah.
A little bit similar. Jack Nicholson is like so intense in the movie. Did you get that same vibe around him, or was he very kind of kid-friendly around you?
Well, he was kid-friendly. Yeah, there wasn't anything. There was, I guess, when I don't know if he's a full-blown method actor or not, but he stayed tired, and maybe he was hungover, I don't know, but you know, when in the bedroom when I'm sitting on his lap, I mean, he stayed that way the whole time, whether the camera was rolling or not. But there were other times where he had a plastic axe and he was kind of running around, you know, having fun scaring people. So, you know, and if you see some of the behind the scenes that's with one of the DVDs, you know, he's pretty happy-go-lucky in a lot of that, and you know, I didn't have a lot of scenes with him, you know, but even just seeing him around the set, you know, he was definitely nice. He was definitely kid-friendly, but you know, I didn't have as many scenes with him as it looks like, and so that for those, you know, when he's got the axe and he's really after us, I don't know what I don't know what his temperament was then.
Any other questions? Yeah.
Since the filming wrapped, have you met at any kind of a function, charity event or anything, Shelley Duvall or Scatman Crothers or Jack Nicholson? Have you met any of them in the last 15, 20 years?
No, that's a good question. I wish I had. The thing I can say is that the cast and crew, we kept in contact, you know, like Christmas cards and stuff, and like, you know, I was a kid, so I had like a matchbook collection, and I would get like these book of matches from Italy and all over the world from cast and crew members, you know, for a while. And I think my parents stayed in touch with Shelley probably the longest, but you know, it's been a long time. So now I saw the twins probably a couple years ago at another con, but you know, if it wasn't for those, I wouldn't have seen them either. So yeah, but and Joe Turkel, I keep wanting to, you know, I know he does some of these, but I haven't run across paths with him yet.
I think he was here a couple years ago, a few years ago. I think he was actually here a few years ago. I'm not too sure though.
Joe Turkel?
I think he might have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bridging off that question, did you talk to Stanley Kubrick at all after the filming was completed?
Yes. I'm trying to think if it was one of my school events, and I don't remember if it was like an 8th grade graduation or maybe a high school or somewhere in between there. Sometime, I guess it would have been in between those, but sometime around when Full Metal Jacket was being finished up, Leon Vitali kind of arranged for Stanley to call me, and we got to catch up for a little while. And I've said this before, but like the main thing he was interested in is how I was doing with school. Mm-hmm. And he was, interested in what all was going on, because that would have been at least 8 or 9 years after, I think. So.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah, that was.
Yeah. When you were a kid, were you ever walking along the street and had like a fan recognize you when you were a kid, or even now? Does that happen a lot, or does it mostly happen at conventions?
I would say it only happens at conventions.
Wow.
Yeah. Which is fine with me.
Yeah.
Not being, I'm fine with not being recognizable.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't think. I'm trying to think of any. I grew up in a small town, so like after the movie came out, it wasn't all that well received, so it just kind of came and went, at least in my world. And I, as a child, I kept auditioning for a while, but after we quit doing that, it was, pretty much off to college, and it wasn't something that came up very often at all.
Yeah. Wow. Any other questions? We're gonna go at the very back, then at the front.
Hi. Yeah. So The Shining movie that's had such an impact?
Yeah, well, I guess the first thing, just to carry on from what I just said, you know, the first thing is how much momentum it's caught. But it was like my memory of it was the first time I heard it listed on scariest movies, like around Halloween, you know, and it was probably like, I don't know, 89 or 90, like I was almost done with high school. And that was the first time I remember it, like, being on anything like that. And I guess that's, you know, what they mean when they say cult classic, because it's kind of an underground appreciation at first. And because my memory of it was up until about then, it was like not really talked about. So as far as, you know, being analyzed, like, don't ask me what some of that stuff means. You know, I wasn't at the meeting. But I mean, in all honesty, that's probably what makes Kubrick such a great filmmaker is, in my opinion, and I'm a biology teacher, not a film critic or anything, but, you know, he leaves a lot of things kind of unanswered for the audience, right? So my impression of it is, for what little it's worth, is, you know, that's part of what I like about him anyway. So if you're talking like Room 237 stuff, like I side with Leon Vitali and Stanley's daughter, and that there's nothing to that. But I don't know if that's where you're going or not. But
No, I just thought because it's so many documentaries.
Yeah.
Film school, everywhere. It's quite an impact.
Yeah, well, I just feel, you know, if you were going to be a one-hit wonder child actor, what movie would you want to be in? And so I hit the lottery. Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. I saw there was a hand up here earlier.
Sure. With Dr. Sleep coming up, were you approached at all, or you able to talk about that? Or if you weren't, you kind of wish maybe you were for a walk-on or anything like that?
Man, all I can say is, wouldn't that be really cool? And go see the movie.
Do at the very back and then just one up.
So did you have to like do any special big wheel training? and did they let you ride that around whenever you wanted to, or is that just that one's?
You know, well, really, with all the practicing and what they were trying to figure out with the camera, I got to ride it plenty. But that probably was about the most fun I had. Was, you know, because, you know, imagine you're a kid and they say, you can ride this inside. It honestly was so cool. I remember thinking, are you sure? And what they were trying to figure out was, they had the Steadicam, and Garrett Brown was there and everything. He's the inventor of the Steadicam, which is a normal thing now, but it was revolutionary then. The cameraman can run and do all these things, and the camera stays still. But they couldn't figure out how, you know, they were going to get him around as fast as I was going or something like that. I believe they ended up with, and that's why we kept trying this and then trying that, and so coming back and forth. I believe they ended up pulling him around in a wheelchair to stay with me in the trike. But that took a while, so I got plenty of riding in that one. Yeah. The big thing that I practiced a lot was walking backwards in my footprints in the maze, which it doesn't get, I mean, it's noticeable, but it's not that big of a deal. But that was the main thing of how he tricked Jack, you know. And I practiced that for a long time, and it just kind of comes and goes in the movie. It's like, gosh, I worked on that.
Did they ask you to practice that, or did you want to practice it? You're like, this is my one. I need to do this.
Boy, that's a good question. I don't remember. I'm pretty sure it was, you've got to get this right. So, yeah, you better practice.
Awesome. I know there's a hand a little bit closer. Yeah.
Just that guy's question made me think, like, have you read The Shining or Dr. Sleep or met Stephen King or talked to Stephen King?
Let's see. That's a good question. I have read Dr. Sleep. Over the years, I honestly, I never sat down and read The Shining, you know, the book all the way through, but the parts and pieces, you know, yes. But this is kind of embarrassing, but I'm told that I may have met Mr. King on the set. But you know what I mean? It's like at that age, stuff is kind of fuzzy. And some of your childhood memories are things that people told you, not things you actually remember. So I feel like I have really good memories because it was a big momentous thing happening, but I'm not sure if I ever got the pleasure to meet him.
Awesome. Any other questions? Yeah.
Okay. There was a scene where you were playing in the hallway with the infamously beautiful carpet.
Yeah.
Do you remember when you had stopped playing and because the carpet changed at one point, like they flipped the carpet? Do you remember that happening and having to do that scene and going back for continuity and whatnot?
You're talking about like playing with cars on the carpet?
The pattern of the carpet at one point, it changes when it cuts back to you.
I guess this one hasn't come up, so no. I don't think we had to go back and reshoot anything for that. This is where the tennis ball rolls up, right? Yeah. But there are questions about continuity and some other things too. And, you know, Mr. Kubrick's such a perfectionist, there would never be any mistakes like that made. But I can't explain. I can't explain. I do know, and you know, I'm not technical. I don't have any technical knowledge of this, but I do know there's some color problems with some of the DVDs, like the tennis ball is pink or something like that. So I don't know if that would that make you think the pattern has changed, and I don't know. But no, you've got me. That you have the question of the day because I don't. I don't know that one.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Wow.
What does it mean?
I feel like there's another documentary in there somewhere. So I know right before I came in, a lot of people were asking questions about the audition process and how different it was for The Shining and for you especially. Could you elaborate a little bit on that?
Yeah, sure. They had just an open call to the public, which, you know, every now and then you might see on the news, you know, there's an open casting call for some kid for something. And you know, the family story is that my dad heard it on the radio and he sent my picture in kind of as a joke. And I guess they got a call after that. And then we were in Midwest Illinois, so we had to go to Chicago for several auditions. The process was, you know, probably the entire fall. I don't really know exactly how many times, but, you know, continuing to go up there and see Leon Vitale, who was the casting director and then turned out to be my kind of acting coach. And then he's the one who's the documentary that I don't know if it's still on Netflix, but Film Worker. Yeah, Leon's life as Stanley Kubrick's right-hand man. And what I didn't realize is that The Shining was kind of his first assignment for Stanley. And because I just thought that was what he'd always done. And then, you know, once, I guess I should explain the process a little bit. As I look back on it now, it was kind of interesting because it wasn't me saying lines at all. None of the audition was like that. It was, now that I think about it, it was brilliant. It's what do you want from a child on your set? And it was like, do I take directions? You know, can I concentrate on something for more than 5 minutes? And then in the middle, he brought a camera in, and he didn't even do anything with it. It was just in the room. It was like, was I scared of the camera? You know, just things like that 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 are just brilliant things for, what would you expect? I'm sure Leon and Stanley kind of sat down and made a list of things to do to kind of test the kids to see, you know, who they would be able to get to, you know, to cooperate. Yeah, so to me, like looking back on that now, that's kind of interesting. But yeah, the audition process was long, and then on my 5th birthday, Leon called me and told my parents that I had gotten the part. And then from then on, it was moved to England for a year, and my poor brother was drug along with us, and then he had to go back for school, or they were going to hold him back. And you know, we were quite homesick by the end of it. But yeah, there was, if you think about it, they probably, we didn't know how long the shoot was going to be, but they probably did, so it was pretty smart on their.
Not to tell you how long it was going to be?
No, well, no, I don't mean that contractually. I don't mean that. Just mean, you know, they knew they were going to have someone that would follow the directions and not be a pain in the. I don't think I was too much of a pain, so.
Because the filming was so long, can you notice yourself age during the film? If you watch it back, you notice yourself, because between what, 5 and 6 is a pretty. You see a kid age quite a bit between that year. Can you see yourself jump around in age if you watch it again now?
No, that's a really good question. No. When that comes up, I remember they told me to stop eating so many ham sandwiches or something. I don't know. Yeah, the breakfast or the lunch food service was great, and so they were like, we're starting to see his face change too much. So I was supposed to cut out on bacon and stuff like that. And then, of course, I got a weekly haircut to maintain that awesome haircut I had. So other than that, I don't think I guess lucky I didn't have any kind of a growth spurt or anything that I'm aware of.
Yeah, it's the haircut that masks everything, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
You just see the haircut and you're like, oh, it's the same kid, same age.
Yeah, probably, yeah, right.
I thought I saw a hand up over here somewhere.
We're pretty much the same age, and I remember watching the movie. I don't know how it was on TV, but my parents didn't know it was on, obviously. Just a couple years later, and I remember it certainly made an impression on me, like the images of the tennis ball rolling out and Danny playing and all that horrifying stuff, the girls in the hallway, Danny getting choked. When you finally got to see the movie, what did those sort of images do? Did the fact that you filmed them dampen how horrific they were, or did they trigger, or did they affect you?
Well, you know, when I see them, the nearest thing I can say is it's like watching home movies, to be honest with you. So, I mean, I get the effect of it. I think I get the experience, you know, that the audience gets. But in all honesty, and I think it's because I was a kid, of course, that when I see particular scenes, I'm thinking of stuff going, you know, crew members that were just off camera and the stuff Leon was doing to help me, you know what I mean? It's not the same experience. So it doesn't scare me, right. But that's not, you know, that's not to say that, you know, horror movies, you know, don't do that, but that one, I just have too many memories locked in with it. And that, I guess probably the other thing I should say is that, you know, they really went out of their way not to scar me. So even if I, you know, didn't remember anything, you know, it wouldn't be a horrific memory. You know what I mean? It was all the memories that I have of it are good ones.
Did they let you see it right away, or was there a bit of a hold up?
No, yeah, we waited. About the time of the release, my mom took me to the biggest theater around, and just my mom and I were in the theater, and they ran like an extra long trailer of the movie, and which, you know, at the time I thought, well, this is cut especially for me, but it had the blood coming out of the elevator, so it wasn't as kid friendly as, you know, I mean, we weren't mad or anything. You know, I remember my mom saying, oh, there it is, I heard him talking about that, you know, so we got all this cool back, you know, insight, but not everything. Like, I have no idea how they shot that, you know, or anything, but when I actually saw it was probably the TV Safe movie about 10 or 11, when I was about 10 or 11 years old. Yeah, so we waited a little bit. My parents, yeah, we waited a little while.
I saw another hand go up over here.
Yeah, did you have any interest in pursuing acting in adulthood, or maybe that's why you're well adjusted now you didn't?
Yeah, well, yeah, well, thank you for, you know, I guess I'm kind of well adjusted.
A lot of child stars have.
Yeah, well, you know, that's a really tough transition, and so my hat's off to anyone who's done it. You know, whether they're superstars or not, just someone who has transitioned through from being a child actor into a professional career, whether it's in front of it or behind the camera. I mean, it's a tough thing to do. And to answer your question, yeah, we auditioned. I had to get off school. My parents, one of my mom or my dad would have to take off work and go to Chicago, and it's a whole day thing for one audition, and that's because we chose not to move somewhere like Chicago or Los Angeles to do that. So, but yeah, I tried for a while, and I got to be in one of those TV Movie of the Week things with Robert Conrad, and so I got, other stuff. I got to do some cool things, but in the end, it was just like, that's over now, and concentrate on being a kid and going to school and stuff like that. Yeah.
Awesome. Any questions? This side of the room is very quiet.
What does your class think of it? Like, you being Shining?
Well, that's a fine line I have to kind of balance. So, I guess it's the worst kept secret at my school, I guess is the best way to put it. So occasionally one of the students will come up and say something, but generally speaking, they know that I don't want to talk about it in class, or because it's a distraction. And I know it might sound a little corny, but like there is a limited amount of time. I teach at a 2-year college, so there's a limited amount of time. I get to see them like twice a week. That's it, so. We don't have time to mess around like that. So, and that's a little bit of an excuse, but it really, like I teach an anatomy and physiology class for nursing students, and it's really important for them. So, I would feel guilty if I was, wasting their time or anything. But it also gets me off the hook a little bit. But because I'm at a college, there's 18-year-olds and there's 60-year-olds and everybody in between, and everybody's different, but the movie is about 40 years old now, so I don't think the younger ones are as aware of it, as maybe before, but they keep it to themselves mostly, I guess, is the best answer.
Do you go by an alias there?
No. I mean, if it wasn't for the internet, I'd been fine.
Yeah. That's a big difference.
Yeah.
Any other questions you guys have?
Yeah, a bit of a random question, but do you have any like guilty pleasure horror movies, just like a movie you watch endlessly and still enjoy?
The remake of The Crazies, that is a little way. I don't know how old that is now, but that's probably the one that really for my wife and I both. Yeah, that's. Probably like, instead of our song, that's kind of our movie. So that's about my favorite.
So we talked a bit about working with Kubrick, with like having to do so many different takes. What was it like working with him as a person?
He, I know that, well, I'll just say this. He never, for purpose of my performance or anything like that, he never was rough with me or did anything to scare me. And to be honest, my parents wouldn't have put up with it even if he did, but it honestly, there was never anything like that. And I know the behind the scenes thing, the DVD, kind of shows him being rough with Shelley, and I honestly didn't know any of that was happening until I saw the behind the scenes movie. So, of course, I wasn't on set every day. There was, there's a lot of the rules for how long a child can be on the set are very limiting. So, but with me, I mean, just like with the newspaper article, I mean, we literally really did play catch with a tennis ball, and he had, I guess, the cast is really like a family. And don't get me wrong, he was in charge, and he was the man. But when you're working with everybody that long, he was at some points to to my eye, he was, you know, one of the crew. He was really nice. The same thing with Jack. Like you know, I didn't know what a movie star was. My parents were like, Jack Nicholson, but you know, I didn't know any better. And Shelley, you know, Shelley was probably the nicest one. Like, she let me and my brother come over to her house and swim in her pool, and you know, stuff like that. So, like I said, I think towards the end of the movie, she found out she was going to be Olive Oil, and we were so excited for her because it was like, that was the perfect casting. And then, you know, I was still a kid when I saw it, and I was like, this is not the Popeye. This is not what I thought it was going to be, but
Oh, wow.
yeah.
All right, we're going to do right and then left.
Excuse me, could you elaborate on your impression of Jack Nicholson? What kind of rapport, I suppose?
Well, you know, I guess maybe the thing I should say is that, like, before we started filming, they arranged for me and my mom, I think, to go meet Jack and go out to lunch with him so he wouldn't scare me or anything, you know? And like, they couldn't get him up. I don't know how good the party was the night before, but like, you know, he was asleep. And so I don't even remember if we went out to eat, but he was perfectly nice. Like I said, he was gregarious, and, you know, he was fun to be around, but because of the editing, you know, we didn't have as many scenes together that I would have liked. But, you know, when you, well, speaking of that, the behind the scenes, when you watch the making of The Shining, you know, you see him being, you know, friendly and talking to the camera and having fun, and, you know, he wasn't, I think he would get serious for what he needed to, you know, but my impression of him was, you know, he was very nice to me and my family. I've got a picture of, or my dad. My dad has a picture of him and my brother talking on the set. You know, it was good.
Awesome. Perfect. And I saw another hand over there. Yeah.
What did you think when you heard that Stephen King was producing like a remake of The Shining in like the mid-90s, and what were your thoughts on it if you saw it?
Well, I saw parts of that, and I guess, you know, I don't know when I became aware that, I think it's pretty well known that Mr. King didn't like, you know, the movie I was in too much, or I don't know how to, at what level that is, so I don't know how to say that. But when you think about it, it's not all that surprising, because I think he directed that, right? The TV series, or the
I don't think he directed it, he just wrote it.
Yeah. He was involved in its production. So, you know, that makes sense. You know, he didn't, and it stayed a lot more with his story, I believe. So I didn't, honestly, I didn't sit down and watch the whole thing, but I thought, you know, I thought there were good performances in it from what I saw. But it's not all that surprising if you think about it, because a man like Stephen King can go do that. If he didn't like, you know, he'd just make his own, you know, so.
I saw one hand over there, then over to that side. Yes.
I was just wondering if you have any recollections of filming that final scene in the maze. If it was called a big failure, did you take retakes and look at the maze was actually how it was constructed?
Yeah, so for the maze, there's a little bit of the edge that they had built outside, and I don't, you know, like I said, we were in England, right? So everything you see, the front hotel facade outside, and just what we needed of the maze, you know, to go from that edge to the middle. The whole maze was not produced, as far as I know. And then the middle of the maze and the other parts we needed, I believe, were inside too. So there's like two different ones, but and that's for the night part that you're talking about, if I remember correctly. You have to remember, I was 5, so some stuff's a little fuzzy. But yeah, that was, I'd hate to say exactly how many days or how long that took, but it was quite a bit of work to get that whole part. And sometimes Leon would be, a lot of the times Leon would just be pretending to be Jack, so I could react to those, you know. And then once or twice Jack was there, but a lot of it was I get me and the crew and everybody, but me and the Steadicam chasing me through the maze, and Leon had to. I mean, I kind of had him down, but Leon had to make sure that I knew my right from my left, because he was yelling out, okay, turn left. I'm running through the maze, but I don't have it memorized. So he's yelling from behind the camera, okay, turn back, look scared. Okay, run, turn left. Okay, now turn right. Now look back again. And with the music and everything, it looks a lot different than how we made it. But yeah, it took a while to get that down. Yeah, and then just a little bit of me walking backwards.
The most important shot, though.
I thought so.
Yes.
I was actually just wondering, because the sweater, the Apollo 11 sweater is like super memorable. Like if you got to keep anything like that from the set, or even what the most memorable piece of like material object from the set would be for you.
No, they didn't give me that. I don't know how many, and they have different versions of, they have 2 or 3 of most everything. So I don't know how many of those sweaters are around. I know where 1 or 2 of them are. One of them I think is in a traveling collection of Kubrick, movie memorabilia. I have witnesses. I was promised that they would send me the trike after the movie, but it never showed up. So.
Do you know where the trike is now?
No, I've seen I have not. Like I said, there's a traveling exhibition, and either there's a picture of it or there's a trike in that. I'm not for sure, but it looks like kind of a cobbled together toy that they made themselves, but apparently it was a company that made them, because it's not quite a big wheel, and it's not quite a tricycle, and it's not, but so I don't know if any others exist, but I was hoping for one, but I never got it.
So I know I was reading an interview with you, and you said that with the fan conventions, a lot of times people ask you questions you don't fully remember, but a lot of times the people at the conventions, such as the fans, will tell you facts about the film that you didn't even realize.
Yeah.
Can you give an example of like a couple of those facts that they told you that you didn't know?
Well, just in general, the hotel is kind of a confusing thing. Like, what hotel is that? And where's it at? And which one, and so, when I started attending these things, I didn't realize that there was any problem with that. And and here I'm going to mess it up because I can't remember the name of it, but the one you see in the beginning of the movie from the outside is a real hotel, but it's not called the Overlook, obviously. And it's not in Colorado, but it's in that area, I think. But then there's another, I've had people explain this to me. There's another hotel called the Stanley Hotel where apparently Stephen King stayed, and that's where he got the idea for the story. That's the best to my knowledge. But just stuff like that, that I never even knew was confusing, or because people will ask, where is that hotel? And it's like, if you see an actor, it's England. Wow. You know what I mean? I mean, if you see the car and stuff, that's different. But just kind of course, I can't think of any others right this second. But just stuff like that. Wow. I guess I probably should say that Lee Unkrich, who's formerly, he recently retired from Pixar, but he directed Coco and Toy Story 3 and some others, and he's a huge Shining fan, and I think he's going to be coming out with a kind of a coffee table book on the making of The Shining in the next, I think for the anniversary, I'm hoping. But he's the one I go to. Like if I'm on Twitter and somebody asks me something, I just say, Lee, do you know the answer to this? And if it's not Lee, there's Howard Berry at Elstree Studios. He's kind of the historian at Elstree. So, like I said, I was 5, and I've kind of picked up on stuff I can. But if it's not a fan at a convention, I have a couple go-to people. Wow. That I can ask questions, and because there was like confusion about you know, sometimes you'll see on Facebook or Twitter or something, today, you know, this date in 1980, The Shining, you know, debuted or whatever. And it's like someone else will say, well, wait a minute, I thought it was this date. And then so Lee will clear it up for me. It was the European, and then the American, and then, or North America, and then, you know, just stuff like that.
So did you go to the premiere of the film when you were younger?
No. No, I don't even, in fact, I think that's something that came up. I don't think they had a red carpet kind of premiere because I guess Stanley wouldn't have been there either. Maybe he would have been in England, but now whether they, you know, whether there was something in Hollywood for Jack and Shelley, I don't know.
No. Oh, that's really interesting. All right.
Yeah.
Final call. Okay, so we're gonna go at the back. Oh my goodness! Once you say final call, everyone's like, hands up, please. Back and then front and over.
Are you a fan of the Simpsons parody of The Shining? Like the Shining?
Yeah, how can you not? I mean, you know, I've said this before, but you know, I'm really lucky to have been in that movie. So when you see, you know, The Simpsons or any of the other, you know, parodies, you know, those are not just for me, obviously, but I mean, you know, those are really compliments being paid to Jack and Shelley and Mr. Kubrick. But yeah, I enjoy those a lot. Yeah.
Awesome. I think there's one up. Yeah.
Have you ever gone back to stay at the hotel or anything like that? I guess it exists.
No, well, I mean, but you know, there is a hotel that looks like that from the outside. But I mean, no, I haven't. I have had friends stay. I think they were at the Stanley, and there is Shining memorabilia up there. So they were like taking pictures of them sitting at the booth with, you know, my picture or whatever. So that's just, it's not on purpose or anything, but that's as close as I've gotten.
I saw one more hand. Yeah.
First of all, I just want to say that I thought your performance at that age in that movie for not seeing anything or not even knowing what you were doing was astounding. Like, it was just crazy good.
Thanks.
But have you ever thought about the idea that there's a whole generation of people running around going, red rum? That's my daughter. Do you ever think about things like that?
No, not too much, because that'll blow your mind if you think about it too much. I mean, you know, I guess that's where, like, I can't, you know, someone, you know, some of you may have come up and said, you know, love the movie and, you know, you were great and all that. But, you know, like, I can't take very much credit for it, really. But that's what I mean by, you know, I was lucky enough to be able to pay attention long enough that they hired me. You know what I mean? They knew what they were looking for that kid, and you know, I may have had a small part in kind of doing the voice. You know, I'm not really sure. I'm pretty sure that Stanley knew what he wanted me to do for it, but I remember him kind of like asking me, you know, if I could do that, and then kind of asking me if I had, you know, do you have kind of a voice? Can you make like your voice a little different? You know, so I might take that much credit for that. But like I said, I was just kind of trained, really. So, but I appreciate it anytime, you know, I'll take any compliments. But I mean, I know what you mean, but it's like I can't, you know, it was Jack Nicholson and, you know, Stanley Kubrick, and, you know, it was, I was quite fortunate.
Awesome. All right. Any final questions? Yes.
What was your favorite kids' TV in the UK? When you were
Oh,
working?
man. Oh, man, that's such a good question. I cannot remember the names of anything from that, but was there a romper room or something? I can't remember any names, but, you know, gosh, I should find out what the names of some of those shows were, because I can remember them. I can remember some silly shows, and I remember my dad saying, you know, rolling his eyes, like, why are you watching this? Stuff like, I can't remember any names of anything. But that's a good question, though. Thanks for that question. Now I'm gonna have to do research.
The weirdest questions are always the best. All right. Last call. Yes, no? All right. Oh, yes.
I read somewhere there was a deleted scene Danny character and Wendy back, like after they're in the snow cap, they get back to somewhere, like a police station at the very end, that Kubrick cut. Do you remember shooting that at all?
Yeah, we were in a hospital.
Oh yeah, that's it. Okay.
So yeah, yeah, we definitely shot it, and apparently he didn't like it, so he had it cut out of all the prints. And there's I guess some people are searching for that, but it probably doesn't exist. But yeah, I mean, it was definitely filmed. Yeah, but what it meant or whatever, I don't know.
All right. Well, let's give you, you said your first time in Calgary, so let's give you a big round of applause. Thank you for so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.